What happens when an undercover CEO walks into his own construction company, only to discover a worker's life story that changes everything? Let's dive in to see how this unfolds. Jackson Hayes was not your typical CEO. At 48 years old, he had built a construction company, Hayes Builders, from scratch. Starting as a young man with nothing but a toolbox and a dream, Jackson had worked tirelessly to create a business that employed hundreds of workers across the country. But as the company grew, Jackson felt increasingly detached from the people on the ground, the workers who were the backbone of his success. One evening, sitting in his sprawling home, Jackson watched a documentary about CEOs who went undercover to experience life on the front lines of their businesses. Inspired, he decided to do the same. He wanted to know the real struggles and triumphs of his employees, not from a spreadsheet but from their own mouths. So Jackson traded his tailored suits for rugged jeans, a flannel shirt, and a hard hat. He grew out his beard and adopted the name Joe Harris, a new hire looking for work on one of Hayes Builders' busiest construction sites. The sun blazed down on a bustling construction site in Denver, Colorado, as Jackson arrived for his first day. The air smelled of sawdust and fresh concrete. He introduced himself to the site manager, a burly man named Marcus West, who gave him a skeptical look but handed him a pair of gloves and pointed him toward the team. Jackson found himself working alongside a crew of men who laughed, grunted, and sweated together as they hauled heavy beams and poured concrete. Among them was a quiet, wiry man named Trevor Brooks, who couldn't have been older than 30. Trevor kept his head down, working diligently without much chatter. Despite his reserved demeanor, there was something about Trevor that caught Jackson's attention, perhaps the way his eyes seemed to carry a weight far beyond his years. During their lunch break, Jackson sat beside Trevor under the shade of a half-finished building. After some small talk, Trevor opened up. He shared that he had joined the company only a year ago after moving from a small town in Nebraska. "My son, Liam, is the reason I'm here," Trevor began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "He's 6 years old now. Smart kid, loves building things with his hands, but he was born with a heart condition. The medical bills—" Trevor paused and took a deep breath. "They took everything. I lost our home, my savings, my wife couldn't handle it and left. It's just me and Liam now." Jackson was stunned. He hadn't expected such a raw and emotional story on his first day. He asked Trevor how he managed to stay so strong. Trevor's answer was simple but profound. "When you've got someone depending on you, giving up isn't an option. Every brick I lay, every beam I lift, I do it for Liam. I just want to give him a life where he can dream, not worry." Over the next few days, Jackson observed Trevor closely. Despite his personal struggles, Trevor was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He often went out of his way to help others, even if it meant staying late to fix a mistake or lending his meager lunch to someone who forgot theirs. One evening, after the site had cleared out, Jackson overheard Marcus, the site manager, complaining to a colleague about an error in payroll that had shorted Trevor's paycheck for weeks. "He's too proud to say anything," Marcus grumbled. "I've tried to fix it, but corporate keeps dragging their feet." Jackson's heart sank. His company was failing one of its hardest workers, a man who needed every penny he earned. That night, Jackson couldn't sleep. He realized how disconnected he had become from the realities of his employees' lives. He vowed to make things right. On his final day undercover, Jackson decided to spend more time with Trevor. He asked him what his biggest dream was. Trevor hesitated, then said, "If I could, I'd open my own small construction business. I'd teach my son everything I know so he could build a better future for himself. But dreams like that, they're not for people like me." Jackson's chest tightened at those words. He wanted to reveal his true identity right then and there, but knew it wasn't the right moment. The next morning, Jackson returned to the site, not as Joe Harris, but as Jackson Hayes. Dressed in his usual suit, he called an emergency meeting with the entire crew. The workers murmured among themselves, confused about why the CEO was there. Then Jackson spoke. "For the past week, I've been working alongside you all as Joe Harris. I came here to understand what life is like on the ground, and what I've learned has moved me deeply. He turned to Trevor. Trevor, your story reminded me of why I started this company in the first place. You work harder than anyone I've ever met, not for yourself, but for your son. That kind of dedication deserves recognition. Jackson announced that the company would immediately address any payroll issues and implement a new employee assistance program to help workers facing financial or personal hardships. Then he turned back to Trevor. I want to help you achieve your dream, Jackson said, his voice steady. The company will sponsor your training and provide you with the resources to start your own small construction business. Consider it an investment in a man who represents the very best of Hayes builders. Trevor was speechless. Tears welled up in his eyes as he shook Jackson's hand. Thank you, he whispered. You have no idea what this means to me and Liam. Months later, Trevor's small business, Liam's Legacy Builders, was thriving. He often partnered with Hayes Builders on projects, and his son, Liam, could often be seen on site, wearing a tiny hard hat and dreaming of the future. As for Jackson, he remained more connected to his employees than ever, regularly visiting construction sites and listening to their stories. He realized that the true strength of his company wasn't in its buildings, but in the people who built them. And so, what started as an undercover mission turned into a life-changing journey for both a CEO and a man who simply wanted a better life for his son. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.